Right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, on the heels of Sunday's AFC Championship game, there are some people who are calling for the National Football League to have their conference championship games played at either a neutral site or simply just have all 32 teams play their home games indoors. Now, we know that the new fad in the NFL is for these teams to go to a retractable roof or an indoor stadium. There's 11 teams currently in the NFL play their home games indoors, and that number could swell to 17 by the end of this decade. And I talked about this topic, a couple of months ago with Mark Jenkins. And, when we talked about the topic, one of the things that we said is that the ownership room in the NFL is changing. It's no longer simply the mom and pop outlets, and more we're seeing business people and corporations take over. And of course, these new owners, they feel that an indoor stadium gives them the ability to have events at their venue year round. Okay, but it comes with a price, and I've always said this, and I will stand by it. Having an indoor stadium in a cold weather city helps you lose your home field advantage in regards to the element. Now, don't get me wrong. Just because you play in a cold weather city does not necessarily you're going to win. You still have to be a good football team. But with that said, you still lose something. And I don't care if some people are going to disagree with me on this. That's all good. But football in December and January should be played in the elements. This is the first postseason in the NFL in more than a decade where they did not have one single game played indoors. And it's going to be that way because Super Bowl 60 is in Santa Clara, which is an open air stadium. Now, say whatever you want about the game yesterday. Snow, wind, rain, and cold are all part of football. It's called home field advantage, and you have to adjust and adapt to it. Now, of course, the Patriots, cold weather city, it was going to be a snowy situation regardless of where that game was played yesterday or on Sunday to be exact. But you think about it, you adjust and you adapt and you deal with it. Coaches historically have taken that time to, toughen, to use that to help toughen their teams up for those situations that they're playing in. And for the most part, the fans in those cities take pride in braving the elements to go out there and support their favorite team, no matter how good or how bad that their team is. Take, for an example, the Cleveland Browns. Okay. The Browns have not been good for a very long time, but their fan base still shows up in those elements, in December to go out there and support the Browns, Buffalo Bills, Green Bay Packers. We can go right down the list. Now, with the AFC Championship game on Sunday, did the weather play a factor? Absolutely. But it's part of the game. You adjust and you adapt. You look at the Patriots in the second half of that game, they focused on their ground game. They dictated things at the line of scrimmage and they had a relentless defense. Okay. The bottom line is they made the necessary adjustments. Denver should have did the same as well. But again, it's part of the game. You look at the Minnesota Vikings as an example. They play indoors at US Bank Stadium, a beautiful facility. Make no mistake about it. And aside from the Vikings playing briefly for a couple of years at the University of Minnesota while their new stadium was being built, they have not played outdoors primarily since 1981. Remember, they played at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington for so many years. Then they went to the Metrodome in 1982. And like I said, primarily they've been indoors. But since the Vikings went indoors, they gave up a huge home field advantage. Why? Because you go back to the Bud Grant Vikings. Their opponents, nobody wanted to go there in December and January and play them. During the 1970s, the Vikings won the NFC Central 8 times. They only lost two home playoff games over that period, and they also made four Super Bowl appearances. We have not seen the Minnesota Vikings get back to the big games since. Okay, you think about it. How many warm weather teams have we seen over the years struggle in the cold and in the cold weather climates, late in the regular season and in the playoffs? Yes, we have seen warm weather teams win in those situations. Matter of fact, just in this postseason, the LA Rams went to Chicago and beat the Bears, and it was freezing on Sunday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. But again, it's few and far between. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as an example, they came into existence in the NFL in 1976. And it was not until 2002 that we saw the Bucks win their first game when the game time temperature was 42 degrees or lower. It's all about building your team around the city and the stadium that you play in. You think about the old Giant Stadium at the Meadowlands and having to deal with the wind there. The Giants, when they were in their glory with Bill Parcells, they thrived off of that. And again, it comes back to the toughness aspect. Snow is part of football, okay? Especially in a city like Denver. The rain, the wind, the cold, it's all about football. It makes for the beauty of December and January football. It helps to give you a true home field advantage. When you think about the major sports, okay, that are played in this country, football and baseball, I really do feel give you the truest feel of a home field advantage. Why? Because you think about baseball, no two stadiums are built the same. The dimensions down the right field line, left field line, center field, right center, left center, the trajectory, the wind, especially if it's an outdoor ballpark, all of that factors in. It's the same with football. It's not the same with a home court advantage in the NBA, where you know what, everybody's got a 94-foot court. Basically, the fans are on top of the court. Same thing with hockey. In football, it's different. The elements factor in. How a stadium is built factors in. You look at the Seattle Seahawks, for an example. Their former owner, the late Paul Allen, had Lumen Field built from the standpoint to say, hey, you know what? We want the fans on top of the field. And on top of that, it was built in a certain way to keep the noise in as much as possible, even though it's an outdoor stadium. You think about it, since the Seahawks went there in 2002, no stadium has had more opponent false starts than Lumen Field. And again, this is a Seahawks team that played in the Kingdome, an indoor facility for years, and they decided to go outdoors. Okay, it's possible. But again, the cold and the elements, I really do feel it gives your opponent something else to think about when they are not accustomed to. And if you can take anything, any small measure, any big measure, whatever it is, to make your opponent have something else to think about, guess what? It just became an advantage. Now, we no longer have mud games in the NFL because grass fields, are equipped with pumps underneath, but, it's still a part of the elements that are missing. I totally get it. The Super Bowl was built around being a warm weather game or having it in a warm weather city as a reward for the players. Totally get it, totally understand it. But now, as the event and football altogether have become so corporate, I feel like the game just needs to get back to its roots more than ever. The bottom line for me is this: football deserves to be played outdoors and not just in 75-degree weather. Why? Because you know what? It really tests the mental, it really tests the toughness. And at the end of the day, that's what football is all about. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, you give me that follow, I will do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram. You can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and I'm saying thanks, take care, and have yourselves a wonderful day.